Hey everybody, it's Irene with BrainStormAcres. And this morning I am going to show you the absolute easiest way that I know of to plan your garden. If you're trying to especially start from seed, you really need to know as much as you can. Now, one of the disadvantages of using the information from a specific grower is they're only going to have information about their own seeds. Is there somebody else out there who has this level of information about their seeds? There's got to be, but honestly, I haven't found them. Most companies, like Hosses for instance, and we love them, we buy a lot of stuff from them, they're great, they'll answer your questions and everything. You can even talk to a person there, it's very scary. The information that they have on their website is going to be more than what they have on their packet. So for instance, this is Mortgage Lifter Tomato, and that's a very traditional open pollinated tomato variety. If I were to go to the Hoss Tools website, it would have more information about disease resistance. This one doesn't say whether it's determinate or undeterminate on here, but it will have that information on the website. And determinate or indeterminate simply for tomatoes means whether it's going to stay short and produce all of its crop usually within a limited time frame, usually 2 to 3 weeks, or whether it's going to continue growing until it freezes to death in the fall, and each new section is going to grow more fruit. So they will have more. Some of the other companies, surprisingly, don't have much more. Disease resistance, most people will have. And some people will have it on their package. This one is from Totally Tomatoes, and they describe the fruit, and then they tell you that they are indeterminate, so I don't have to go to the website to find that out. And it gives a list of diseases that they are either tolerant of or resistant of. Okay? Handy. One thing I like best about both Johnny's and Hoss Tools is these little stickers that you'll see on them. Johnny's puts theirs on the front, Hoss puts theirs on the back. And it'll say lot number, the germination rate, and the date tested. Now these are last year's seeds. And whether it's treated or untreated. A lot of companies will not tell you that information. In fact, you can't figure out anything about when it was likely to be tested or anything else except by looking, like Totally Tomatoes says, packed for 2020, sell by December 2020. Okay, that means they intended this to be sold in 2020. It doesn't tell us how good the germination rate was to start. It doesn't tell us a lot number. I like having lot numbers because if they're having trouble with a specific seed and they get a lot of complaints, if I call Johnny's and I have the lot number on here, they can look at that and say, oh, yeah, we've had problems with that seed lot, we'll replace them for you. And Hoss will do the same thing. Stuff can happen. Stuff can happen, no matter how carefully a seed company tries to control their seed quality, stuff can happen. Just some things to think about. Okay, you're a beginning gardener. You're accustomed to just buying seedlings. And now for the first time you're trying to grow your seedlings. You've gone to Johnny's, you figured out how many weeks before you want to transplant you have to start your seeds. Cool. You've got your seed starting trays or yogurt cups or, flower pots. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. I don't recommend starting in anything super tiny. I see people recommending, because it's free essentially, that you use things like eggshells. It does not create enough of an area, unless you're raising ostriches, in which case you have effectively a 4-inch pot. It does not create enough area for a plant to set down a good root. Now, there are specific types of trays, and we own some, we use them, we got them from Hoss Tools, that are actually a commercial variety of tray that is deeper than it is big around. So you wind up with a root ball that's very long and pointy. But what you've got there is, if those plants are ready to be put into the ground, they have also developed roots way down in this thing. So they've got this nice long set of roots that you can just dig a little hole, slide that right in there, firm the soil around it, and you're ready to go. An eggshell, for instance, okay, say you're really careful and you've got jumbo eggs, you might have that much room for your seedling to put down root, and maybe that much room around. Is it possible to grow plants in something that small? Yes, it is. Here's what I see as a problem. If you're not watching, and part of this is luck, if you're not watching really carefully, you're going to wind up with root-bound plants. The roots will start going around in circles inside that little egg, trying to find a way out, trying to find more nutrition, trying to find someplace else to go. Second big problem with something that small is it's super easy to dry them out. Last year? Year before last, I grew spinach and a couple of varieties of specialty lettuce and greens in some very shallow trays in the greenhouse. I will not do that again. It's fine to start them in there, but then they needed to be potted into something different. If you have a tray that's only this tall, that plant tray, the dirt in there, can dry out in hours if you live someplace dry. The plants that I planted in those trays did pretty well because I'm normally out there every single day. But at some point I remember screwing up and I just about killed them. I did some real damage. Because even though I was watching carefully every day, we got an extra hot day, maybe I missed watering some of them that morning, or I didn't water enough. There's just not enough water storage in something that shallow to continue for a plant to grow on. Now, if you look at that depth I'm showing you there, that's as deep as most seedling trays are. And that's another good point to make. When you are starting seeds in a seedling tray, those plants have to be tended to every single day. Doesn't mean you have to water them every single day, but they can dry out from moderately moist to bone dry in a couple of hours if you live someplace bright and sunny and dry like I do. And you may not even think that it would be that big a deal until you go out there and you find your plant all keeled over and the dirt is dry as a bone. Can they come back? Sometimes they can. But one of the problems is if you have damaged your seedlings at a young age, sometimes the plants will be stunted for life. One of the problems we have when we buy seedlings from big box stores, for instance, is in the past I have gone by and I'm like, nobody watered the plants in here today. And I almost want to yell at somebody at the service desk and say, for gosh sakes, get somebody out there with a hose, because everything is droopy and flopped over. I'm sure somebody just didn't come into work, or the person who was supposed to do it didn't remember, or they were pulled off to go do something else. Well, that's great. Now, in the last couple of years, I've noticed that's improved a bunch. And that's probably because they lost one heck of a lot of plants. But those plants can sometimes be permanently damaged. Most of the time, tomatoes will come back okay. Peppers will come back okay. Some of the brassicas, things in the cabbage family, will not come back okay. Sometimes once they are damaged, period. And the plant will always be stunted, and it'll just never work as well as it should have. And I've heard a couple of people say that about some of their pepper plants too, that they didn't do all that well, even though they would have expected them to. So an important thing to consider is your source of seedlings. Very frustrating when you have done everything right and they just really don't do well. What else could cause them to not do well? Well, you're watering them enough, they've got enough soil around their roots. Do they need fertilizer? Now, fertilizer is one of those things you have to be a little careful with because you can also kill your plants by over-fertilizing them. If you're a newbie and you just want to do something safe, pick up one of the, say if you're growing tomatoes, pick up a fertilizer that's designed for tomatoes. It'll have the right balance of the various things that your tomato plant needs in order to do well. Some of the organic fertilizers work like a charm. Really good. They're not as quick as the straight chemical fertilizers. So if your plant is looking a little wilty right now in terms of nutrition, not in terms of water, but in terms of nutrition, I would recommend giving them a really quick shot of 20-20-20 and some organic fertilizer, because that organic fertilizer is going to be slow release. It's going to take a few weeks for it to kick in. Meanwhile, you've at least given them a little boost with the 20-20-20. Hope you find this useful. We're going to be doing lots more, so be sure to stay tuned in, hit that like bell, that subscribe bell, comment below if you have specific questions, if you're interested in specific topics, if you had specific problems. Both my husband and I have a lot of experience with gardening. Maybe we could point you to a site that'll help you with a specific topic. We don't pretend to know about every plant that's out there. In fact, just this week I was doing some more research on stratifying seeds, but that's a whole nother video. So until next time, bye.